Ready for an adrenaline rush? Check out Sports Crash. MAV TV brings you an in-depth look at the most heart-stopping daredevil action taken to the absolute limits. Drag boats, extreme boarding, base jumping, insane BMX riding. Get the untold stories behind some of the most awesome smash-ups ever. Sports Crash on MAV TV. MAV TV, American Real.
Mystic Lubricants knows that even on the straightest, flattest of roads, your axles need protection. That's why Mystic JT7 gear lubricant features a proprietary formulation designed to withstand temperature extremes and provide the best gear wear protection, no matter how heavy the load or steep the grade. Look for JT7 gear lubricant at your local retailer or buy online at mystiklubes.com. That's MYSTIK lubes.com. Lubrication domination.
I'm Deidre Hall with a message about your eye health. My mother had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD, which means my family members are at greater risk. AMD affects vision, and having low vision as a result of wet AMD, the more severe form of AMD, can mean a task like driving can become a major challenge.
I'm Dr. Sada of the Doheny Eye Institute in UCLA. AMD is the most common cause of severe, irreversible vision loss in older adults in the U.S. AMD affects central vision, which lets you see fine details. About 9 million Americans are living with wet AMD or are at risk. If you're over 50, smoke, or have a family history of wet AMD, you could be at increased risk. If a healthcare professional suspects wet AMD, a retina specialist can confirm the diagnosis and work with you on a treatment plan.
Routine eye care, including regular eye exams, can help maintain your vision. Visit www.geteyesmart.org for more information.
The Miller Lite Home Draft gives you the great Pilsner taste of Miller Lite on draft in your fridge, and it stays fresh for up to 30 days, and fresh is a lot better than stale. You don't go outside for a breath of stale air. Catching a stale water fish? Bet it has 3 eyes and a hoof. Brewing a stale pot of coffee? That's one grande stinks a latte. Ah, the smell of stale cut grass. FYI, I'm knee-high in manure. Serving snacks and re-stalements at your party? That's a real party pooper, Padre. A stale-baked cookie goes great with a warm glass of shut your trap, chap. Stale squeezed OJ? Squeeze me, but no J. If your buddy tells you he's keeping things stale, he needs to change his underpants. Need to restale your web browser? Try www.getaclue.nerd. Don't get stale with me. That's just gross. So I drink stale beer when you can have up to 30 days of fresh draft beer in your fridge. The Home Draft from Triple Hops Brewed Miller Lite. Taste greatness. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Great beer, great responsibility.
Push it. Push it. Push it real good. Ooh, baby, baby. Baby, baby.
If you're Salt and Pepper, you tell people to push it.
Push it real good.
That's what you do. If you want to save 15% or more on car insurance, you switch to Geico. It's what you do.
I'm pushing it real good.
Don't miss the largest indoor race of the year, where champion racers from all types of motorsports will compete for the prestigious Golden Driller. MAV TV brings you the Lucas Oil Chili Bowl Nationals, presented by General Tire. Over 200 racers will fight for 5 grueling days, and only the very best will make it to the final race. The 29th Annual Lucas Oil Chili Bowl Nationals, coming January 17th, live on MAV TV.
At Miller Lite, we believe if you're not choosing a light beer with more taste, you need to man up, not man down. Because up is way better than down. You don't tell someone sad to cheer down. What's down, dog? A steamy pile. And you just stepped in it. Giddy down, cowboy? You must be saddled on a blind 3-legged jackass. Struggling to make down your mind? Let me help you. Yes, wear pants today. Looking for a down and coming neighborhood? Try Cell Block 4C. Great view with lots of bars nearby. Got a job at a start down company? Let me guess. You slap buckets on a street corner. Getting pumped down for your big party? It's in a chat room and the only guest is Bernie, the 67-year-old retired clown. Oh, and your girlfriend's not wearing a push-down bra. It's called gravity, Isaac Nitwit. Can I be down front with you? All this down talk is bringing me down. So don't man down. Man up and choose a light beer with more taste. Triple Hops Brewed Miller Lite. Taste greatness. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Great beer, great responsibility.
You're listening to the voice of dirt motorsports across the nation and around the world. This is the Midwest Racing Radio Network. Welcome to Getting Dirty Live on the Midwest Racing Radio Network. Your host, Brian Spieker, will have the promoters, the drivers, the crew members, and, of course, the people that make it happen in racing, you, the fans. Join us every week at this time right here as we are Getting Dirty Live. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Brian Spieker. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Getting Dirty Live on the Midwest Racing Radio Network. My name is Brian Spieker. I'm your host. This half hour, we have Larry Hall from ASCS Warrior Division to talk about sprint car racing across Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, and points connected to that. We're going to get right into it. There will be no phone calls this segment, so listeners, please take note of that. We'll start with Larry. Larry, introduce yourself a little bit with your role with the ASCS Warrior Series.
Well, last year I took over as the series race director. So I've been around sprint car racing all my life, so I felt like it was time to do a little bit more with it. And we had a pretty good year last year. It's a strong group of sprint car racers here in central Missouri, and they have no trouble being pretty competitive and going at each other.
What you face is kind of a unique situation with the Gulf South and the Sooner regions combining and the disappearance of the Midwest regions. Do you think the disappearance of the Midwest regions is going to help the Warrior Division with the drivers that actually want to come down and still be affiliated with ASCS?
I've got a feeling that most of them will just drop in when we're like towards Osborne and with special races. They would occasionally travel. There's about 2 or 3 of them that would travel down this direction. But I feel most of those people that were supporting the Midwest region is probably going to now support the Nebraska 360 sprints.
All right. Yeah, with the with Houston's dropping 360s and the Midwest division gone, it only strengthens Sprint Invaders, UMSS, and Knoxville, and even the Nebraska 360s. For a while there, it left people wondering where to go, and with the nail driven in the coffin by NSL, some kind of went their own direction, and decided they were going to try the more expensive 410s. Do you think that, with some of the changing of the guard in the upper Midwest, that 360 is kind of on their way out, or do you think it's going to strengthen?
I don't know that it's on its way out because there's a lot of equipment still out there. I'd say that if there is changes, at one time everyone was 410 and you didn't have a 360 around. And then the 360s, Emmett Hahn got the 360 series started along with Knoxville, and it picked up and took off. And there's a strong 305 class building up in the north too, with Nebraska and Iowa cars. So I think that there's probably enough people interested in open wheel racing to support three levels of engines and 3 levels of competition.
Yeah, because Houston's dropped down from the 360s went to the Race Saver 305 rules, and I noticed that there was, like I said, some sanctions actually opened up their 410 rules to allow the 360s by giving them up to 75 pounds of a weight break. But we all know on a dry slick track, regional sanction event that's a 410 sanction, any given day, a 360 can still be competitive with the 410 as long as the track conditions are right.
Right. And, with being here in Missouri and the 410, number of 410 cars are pretty limited. Anytime the 410s come into this area, there's usually 360s that'll bump up and race with them because they have trouble fielding a full field of car.
I mean, you got your own region with the ASCS, and I know that you guys combine some national events within that region. Larry, your schedule combines with the national with the national ASCS tour and the Warrior region several times along 2015. Can you give me a little hint as far as how that shakes out?
Yes, we're going to be racing 5 times in 2015 with the national group, and that's usually about what we've got each year, 4 to 5. And then we try to supplement it with about 15 regional shows so that we have a schedule of about 20 races. And so this year we're going to be joining them in Kansas City and twice down at Wheatland, and then once at Sedalia at the Missouri State Fair, which is scheduled to go back into racing this year during the fair.
And that's a special track indeed. I've only seen it once in my lifetime, but never seen a race on it. Can you tell us a little more about that state fair event?
Well, they refer to it as the historic half mile. It's got a long history of racing. One time Missouri had the mile track and a half mile. They've completely done away with the mile track. And, they didn't race last year. And there was some concern as to whether we'd ever see racing there at the state fairgrounds again. But I think that they've worked out something between the promoter, the State Fair Board, and ASCS National, and they were supposed to be bringing in a race the last day of the fair, paying $12,000 to win for 360 Sprint.
Wow. Talk about cars coming up from out of nowhere for that kind of money.
Normally when we go with the Nationals at the end of the year, like at the Hockett Memorial, the Hockett-McMillan Memorial at Wheatland, it pulls anywhere from about 45 to 56 cars a year. So I anticipate this state fair race has the potential to get in that 45 range also with cars.
With the Warrior region, I know that that's pretty much focused around one state and some surrounding states. Like I think I saw on your schedule, you're into Kansas a little bit and in some of the surrounding areas. What's the average car count that a fan traveling across the country on vacation during the summer could see?
Normally we end up with about always a 3-heat program. So we're in that 24 to 28 car range, somewhere in there in almost all of our shows.
And that ain't bad at all. I mean, 24, 28 cars is a full field at most tracks. Larry, I'm going to kind of change this a little bit. With the Warrior Series, you can expect, the ASCS standard type things like you would see, like some of the things on the national level. Do you guys do something a little more special for the local crowds and the tracks that you're invited to come and race at?
We do a thing last year. We began what was called the Red, White, and Blue Tour around the 4th of July, which is a 4-day race series on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and visit 3 different tracks and add a little bit of extra money to the win. And then we also run just a mid-season point race thing with just these 4 races. So last year it carried a $3,000 point fund for just those 4 races, and we divided it up and kept a separate points. Plus the points came back into their season point, kind of like a chance to get some point money in the middle of the season.
Something to kind of help out when you need to rebuild and because most of those motors don't last 20 nights, and that type of thing. You see in the Warrior Series all sorts of different diverse backgrounds, educational fields, financial structures. Is that any different, not just in the Warrior Series, but, from what you're seeing across the country?
I think that, the people who are involved in racing come from all walks of life. I mean, from highly professional people to people that, probably would invest and mortgage their house to stay racing. And so, I'd say that, the field keeps growing. There's a few people new that enter every year, but there's a few more that drop out. Racing is really kind of a rich man's sport, but everyone wants to get involved in it, and everyone, needs to have that opportunity to get involved in it. So it's a way of meeting a lot of people over time, and it's sometimes really interesting to find out what they do for their daytime jobs.
Yeah, you mentioned that, like I said, people mortgaging houses and that type of thing. Is there any kind of steps that the national sanction or, because the national sanction basically fronts all the rules for the regional series, is there any kind of steps that they're starting to take now to try to help lighten the load a little bit financially on what it costs to go racing, on the average night or for a full year?
The only thing that they've tried to do, there hasn't been any really major rule changes in ASCS, but, is try to keep the rules as consistent as possible so that, people don't have to go out and buy new equipment just to meet a rule. But as far as the financial cost, to be competitive, you're still talking in that, $20,000 to $30,000 for an engine for a 360.
And ASCS kind of led the country last year, if not the year before, started planting that seed when most of the racing sanctions went on a United Right Rear Rule or United Rear Tire Rule.
Right.
And a lot of them just, had realized that ASCS had a good tire and, with Hoosier, and cost was kept low and affordable. Do you see that as something that I see it as something that started in ASCS, but do you see that as that was the reason behind that, or was it just that Hoosier put out such a good product at a good price that it was hard to resist?
I think it was probably the Hoosier tire for some. A big part of it. I think they kind of set the pace for racing tires right now. So I would say a lot of it has to do with just Hoosier and what they've done in their product development.
We're going to stop here, take a break. When we come back, we'll be back with Larry Hall, and we're going to take a commercial break here. This is Getting Dirty Live. I'm Brian Spieker on the Midwest Racing Radio Network. You're listening to the voice of dirt motorsports across the nation and around the world. This is the Midwest Racing Radio Network.
Don't miss the largest indoor race of the year, where champion racers from all types of motorsports will compete for the prestigious Golden Driller. MAV TV brings you the Lucas Oil Chili Bowl Nationals, presented by General Tire. Over 200 racers will fight for 5 grueling days, and only the very best will make it to the final race. The 29th Annual Lucas Oil Chili Bowl Nationals, coming January 17th, live on MAV TV.
Mystic Lubricants knows that even on the straightest, flattest of roads, your axles need protection. That's why Mystic JT7 gear lubricant features a proprietary formulation designed to withstand temperature extremes and provide the best gear wear protection, no matter how heavy the load or steep the grade. Look for JT7 gear lubricant at your local retailer or buy online at mystiklubes.com. That's MYSTIK lubes.com. Lubrication domination.
The Miller Lite Home Draft gives you the great Pilsner taste of Miller Lite on draft in your fridge. And it stays fresh for up to 30 days. And fresh is a lot better than stale. You don't go outside for a breath of stale air. Catching a stale water fish? Bet it has 3 eyes and a hoof. Brewing a stale pot of coffee? That's one grande stinks a latte. Ah, the smell of stale cut grass. FYI, I'm knee-high in manure. Serving snacks and re-stalements at your party? That's a real party pooper, Padre. A stale baked cookie goes great with a warm glass of Shut Your Trap, chap. Stale squeezed OJ? Ex-squeeze me, but no J. If your buddy tells you he's keeping things stale, he needs to change his underpants. Need to restale your web browser? Try www.getaclue.nerd. Don't get stale with me. That's just gross. So I drink stale beer when you can have up to 30 days of fresh draft beer in your fridge. The Home Draft from Triple Hops Brewed Miller Lite. Taste greatness. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Great beer, great responsibility.
I'm Deidre Hall with a message about your eye health. My mother had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD, which means my family members are at greater risk. AMD affects vision, and having low vision as a result of wet AMD, the more severe form of AMD, can mean a task like driving can become a major challenge.
I'm Dr. Sada of the Doheny Eye Institute in UCLA. AMD is the most common cause of severe, irreversible vision loss in older adults in the U.S. AMD affects central vision, which lets you see fine details. About 9 million Americans are living with wet AMD or are at risk. If you're over 50, smoke, or have a family history of wet AMD, you could be at increased risk. If a healthcare professional suspects wet AMD, a retina specialist can confirm the diagnosis and work with you on a treatment plan.
Routine eye care, including regular eye exams, can help maintain your vision. Visit www.geteyesmart.org for more information.
You're listening to the voice of dirt motorsports across the nation and around the world. This is the Midwest Racing Radio Network. This is Getting Dirty Live on the Midwest Racing Radio Network. I'm Brian Spieker, and with Larry Hall from the Warrior Series of the ASCS Sprint Car Sanction, 360 Sprints. Warrior Series kind of covers an area around Missouri and just the states surrounding. Larry, we talked about the tracks, we talked about the equipment, the budgets, things like that. We touched on a couple of tracks in the schedule and some special things. What about the marquee drivers that are involved in the series?
I would say probably, the standout right down here right now is Jonathan Cornell out of Sedalia, Missouri. Jonathan's won the ASCS Warrior Region 3 consecutive years now, and we hope that we've got him back in 2015 to go for his 4th title. The first year that this series ran under ASCS, our point champion was Brad Loyette.
Very talented driver altogether, all the way around. Nothing, I cannot say anything bad about Brad or even remotely negative, as he's a class act and a great representative for the Warrior region.
He went on to, almost won the national championship this year. It went down to the last race and calculating the points after everything was over before he lost that championship. He's done well, and I'm hearing rumors that he's moving up into some 410 racing next year, and it's planning on just running kind of a true outlaw circuit, not racing for points anywhere, but just hitting shows where he wants and when he wants.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like my operation up here, where we've picked 110 shows and also doing some midget time for 20 shows. We don't have a heart set on chasing points like some drivers put that as a big importance in their own backyard, where us we're just kind of going out and trying to get some seat time and some experience in the different sanctions. Right. You see that happening with some of your drivers?
Most of them right now are experimenting with non-wing racing. There's a non-wing group down here, the winged auto racer or wingless auto racers, or a lot of them, when that group is running, take off the wings and go racing wingless.
That's a little easier said than done, having actually ran one of their events last year with the 305. I found out the hard way. I mean, you just can't do it. You just can't do that. I mean, it's a suspension change, complete driving mode change from basically putting the foot to the floor all the way around.
Right. Several of them's got like 2 separate cars that they have one that they devote to the wing and have it set up for the wing, and the other one set up to race wingless.
And I mean, in a way, that's not a bad way to go, with only 20 events, in your region. I mean, some of them are, I think you could see it, Larry, some are a little more dedicated than others that, they just don't, this isn't just a part-time thing for them. This is a full-time hobby or a full-time activity rather than a hobby.
But I see a lot of good talent coming up. We talked about Jonathan Cornell, but there's a guy down by Nixa, Missouri, by the name of Kyle Bell. And Kyle is fun to watch race. He's kind of like a pedal-to-the-metal guy, and he's one of them, if you put him at the back, he's going to come to the front pretty quick.
Very hard-charging driver.
Another fun one to watch is Tyler Blank out of California. And, Tyler's dad was a racer, and Tyler, growing up around that little track there at California, he's won that championship several times, and he's venturing out, and he's got a lot of talent, and I think a lot of fan support too, and he's a guy to kind of keep an eye on. And then we got a group that's out of that St. Joe area. Most of the year this year there was a point battle going on between Randy Hibbs and Jay Russell. Randy's out of Savannah and Jay's out of Elwood, Kansas, and those two went back and forth almost every race, changing the point championship point back and forth for, I would say, 3/4 of the season this year.
That sounds exciting for the fans when you got that close to racing. One thing I kind of wanted to bring up is how often do you see the bigger drivers from Missouri showing up at your tracks, like the Brian Browns, the Wards? Just trying to think of some of the other drivers that also run the national level, but occasionally they come back home and run a couple of races.
Brian Brown, usually when it's a race at Lucas Oil, you can pretty much count on him being there. I mean, he likes the track. Usually, three of them are national races, so they have a good payout. He'll show up for those. We have a Labor Day weekend special at Randolph County Raceway in Moberly, and that one's has been paying like $4,000 to win on Sunday, and Brian and Danny Lazowski have made the trip back from Jackson, Minnesota, usually to race that race.
And that's quite a drive. I mean, I know that for us, it's just to go down to, like last year, having my car in Oklahoma, for us to go from Oklahoma and go run in Minnesota somewhere, it was 18 to 22 hours.
Right.
And that's a lot of driving.
Well, what we try to do here in the Warrior region is we kind of look at Columbia as being the center part of the state, and we try to stay within that 200-mile radius of Columbia so that most of our drivers, it's only a 2.5 to 3 hour drive to track.
And also it gives the drivers at Knoxville, if they've got a night off or if they get a rain out, they got a fighting chance to make the show, especially if that's where they're based out of that Des Moines area, or Burlington even. They've got they've got half a fighting chance to make a sprint down to Missouri and come race with the Warrior racers.
I do have to tell you about one other race that we have that I think is a fun race every year, and that's the Bud Shootout up at US 36 in Osborne. That's a high bank third mile, super fast, like a 410. It's not unusual for a 410 to turn a 9-point-something second lap up there. But the 360s get around it good, too. But when we do the Bud Shootout, Mike Franks, the promoter up there, goes out to some of these local businesses and gets it set up so that race pays $500 to win a heat.
And that is awesome. I saw I think I saw something on that. I don't think it was, I think there's already a flyer out on that on one of the websites. I don't remember where I saw it, but I did see something about that just this week, and I don't think it was the preliminary schedule you sent me. It was out there somewhere, and I should have taken note because I've got it in. Like I said, I see races like that. I quickly capture the photo and put it in my scheduling file. Friday, June 12th. That actually is a good time of that month. Because there's not a whole lot of big events right smack in the middle of June. Everybody's getting ready for like the 360 Nationals, with your red, white, and blue tour coming in July. I mean, it's a good time to, really tune up the car and get used to the way that, as a driver, the way the ASCS does things, especially if you're running multiple different tracks with different procedures. Now, the best part about it is a lot of 360 sanctions like to do passing points. Unlike with the 410s, you're qualifying, you don't get no passing points. It's how you finish, is how you advance. Right. Tell me a little bit about, why that's so favorable for ASCS and why so many drivers really like it.
I think it's probably because normally when we go in to run a race in the regions, we're part of a weekly show, and there's the other classes running, and so like time trials would just add to the program, and a lot of the local fans that may be there for what they consider their weekly show may not be accustomed to the time trial format anyway, so it's a way of trying to speed up the show so that we can get all the races in and get the families out of there on time. The other part of it is that, time trials, it's a good way to introduce cars and drivers, but a lot of times format of time trials, depending upon whether you've got rain or something, the track conditions aren't the same for everyone. Those that go out early and those that go out late. So, I personally have got used to passing points, and they're fairly easy to figure, and I think it moves the show along.
And the nice part about that is most of the computer scoring systems, even the hand scoring system, still it makes it a lot easier. But with the computer scoring systems, it's instantaneous. Thanks a lot, Larry, and I appreciate you joining us on the show today. Larry Hall from the ASCS Warrior Region Series. They are a 360 sprint car series across Missouri and states connected. They do a great job. We want to thank Larry for taking time out of his day to join us on Getting Dirty Live on the Midwest Racing Radio Network. That's about going to do it for me. I'm Brian Spieker. Don't forget, Chili Bowl coverage coming up here soon. We hope to be broadcasting a show from the Chili Bowl in January. Whether or not it's going to be in the arena or not, that's another story. We will keep you up to date right here on Getting Dirty Live. I want to thank you for joining us. This is Getting Dirty Live on the Midwest Racing Radio Network.
Ready for an adrenaline rush? Check out Sports Crash. MAV TV brings you an in-depth look at the most heart-stopping daredevil action taken to the absolute limits. Drag boats, extreme boarding, base jumping, insane BMX riding. Get the untold stories behind some of the most awesome smash-ups ever. Sports Crash on MAV TV. MAV TV, American Real.